to the Weekenders. This is the show where we talk about the biggest and best football games of the weekend, and this is the last week in a while where we're not going to be talking about games because if you've been watching the last few weeks, we've been doing previews of the college football conferences in the Power Five, and now we're wrapping up with our last NFL preview, which it will be the NFC East and NFC West. So we're about to be done with the previews, about to be on to real football games, back to the point of the show, and I can't be more excited. But today, I'm Max, of course, joined by Bobby, and we got a special guest. If you a Multiplicity Media fan, you've seen him on Break the Bank. I'm pretty sure he's been a guest on some other shows too. If not, he should be.
Nobody.
I know you've been on the sleepers.
You guys are the first people. I think you guys are the first people to ask me to be a guest.
I feel like you've been on the sleepers.
A couple years ago when they had the Push and OJ show, I was a guest.
Okay. All right. I was like, I know he's done something with Greg before, but okay, cool.
Oh, and then we had the Biggest Loser show with me, Greg, Dion, and Cart.
I remember that.
Okay,
I remember that.
All right,
brutal.
So
it was brutal.
Yeah, if you've been watching our stuff for a while, you see this face. But Larry, anyway, what's up? Welcome to the Weekenders. Welcome to the show. Good to have you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm looking forward to talking about my Giants.
Yeah, we can do an NFC East, any type of NFC East show without you. So glad you were available.
Appreciate
Let's jump right into it because we are previewing two divisions. So there's a lot of storylines we can talk about, but we're going to skip those and go right into these over-unders, these win totals. And we're going to start with the Washington Commanders. Their line in Vegas for this year is 6.5. Their record last year was 8-1. We know kind of what they went through. Sam Howell beat Dallas and won the job in training camp. We're recording this the day after he had a good performance on Monday Night Football against the Ravens, ended their preseason winning streak or whatever. So the Commanders feel confident in their quarterback situation, their defense, hopefully getting a healthy Chase Young, doing better on that side of the ball. You got Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, trying to prove that it wasn't, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's trying to prove that he is a guy that deserves to be a head coach. So a lot of things going on in Washington. And at 6.5, looking at the doc here, looks like we all agree they are going to be over that. But Larry, since you're our guest, I'll let you start out. Tell us why the Commanders are over 6.5 this year.
They won 6 games last year?
8.
They won 8 games. They won 8 games last year. They didn't really make too many changes. Like, outside of the draft, they didn't do much player-wise. But Chase Young's supposed to be healthy this year. As much as I hate to admit it, Sam Howell is an upgrade at quarterback. So you upgrade at quarterback, you bring in a tremendous offensive coordinator. Your best defensive player is supposed to be healthy for the first time since he was a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why they don't win 8 or 9 games this year. We in hindsight on Break the Bank, we might have did the division previews a little early, but when we previewed the NFC East, I'm on record saying I think all 4 teams hit the over in this year. I think Washington comes in last place again, but they still hit the over. I think 8-9 wins is feasible for this team, given the personnel changes, a healthy Chase Young. And you're in the NFC East. It's not like we're the greatest fucking division in the world. It's not like we're the the AFC North or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, devastated that we're not spending an hour talking about San Diego State and Ohio this weekend in Week 0. I had a whole spiel planned out for that. But for the Commanders, I gotta say, I just think the line is really low. It feels weirdly disrespectful. I'm not fully sold on them, but 6.5. I mean, come on. Bieniemy coming in, having Howell at behind center. I'm pretty optimistic that they can at least hit 7. So I'm going to go with the Commanders over. I think we're going to see a lot of parity in the NFC East this year.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Lerk.
I was just gonna add on, like, when you look at their schedule, like, it's not that intimidating. They play the Cardinals, they play the Bears, they play the Falcons, they got the Patriots, who I think are in shit this year. Like, they have, like, outside of the division, the schedule is not too tough for them. Like, they have a few games that they're probably gonna get mollywopped, like against Buffalo, but I like their schedule for them. Like, I think that 8-9 wins should be the minimum for them. 6.5 feels a bit disrespectful, and I hate to say that given how much I hate them.
You know what? A lot of people have Ron Rivera on the hot seat this year. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Eric Bieniemy is just kind of waiting in the wings or whatever for that job." But let me tell you something. I mean, I'm not saying that Commanders are a playoff team. I think they have the potential to be. But if we're talking about strictly betting the over under 6.5, Ron Rivera, as a head coach, has only lost. He's only he's only lost more than. I'm sorry. So I'm mixing it up. Blah blah blah. Okay. Ron Rivera has been 6-10 twice in his career. It was his first year coaching, Cam Newton's rookie year in Carolina, and then he went 6-10 the year after the Super Bowl year. Outside of that, when he's coached a full season in the NFL, he's always won at least 7 games. So, not Ron Rivera isn't the greatest coach, but I think with this roster, again, take out a couple outlier years, first year coaching, and then after the Super Bowl year is always tough on some teams. Ron Rivera can at least hit a 7-win season for you, if not more. And I think this is a year where Washington has the talent. We've all talked about it: defense, coaching, everything is there for them to hit at least a 7-win season, if not more. So I would consider that stat or fun fact or whatever you want to call it. We're talking about strictly betting the over under on 6.5.
And I gotta say, I was gonna say, organizationally, getting Dan Snyder out of them there, having him sell the team, that has to be just a massive weight off of that organization, from the players to the management to the fans. Like, you can actually support your team and not have to worry about giving money to Dan Snyder. That's a huge plus for the Commander fans, I imagine.
To piggyback off that, Josh Harris is the new owner. He's the majority owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. He owns a hockey team, and he was also a minority owner in the Steelers before he bought the Commanders. After covering the 76ers for Hoops Habit, a fan sided a couple years ago, like, you learn a lot about that specific owner. He's very passionate about his franchises, and he's always been very clear that he will give you a blank check if it means winning the championship. So that's going to bode well for them in the future. I don't think it's going to have much of an impact this year, but getting rid of Dan Snyder has to boost the morale all around, right? But the only thing that would concern me about them hitting this over is Terry McLaurin with the turf toe. They're calling him day-to-day right now, but turf toe is the trickiest injury outside of a hamstring. Like, it's very tricky. You never know if they're going to play. Like, he's probably going to be day-to-day for the whole fucking season. We've seen it with Julio Jones. We saw it with Frank Gore. And Terry McLaurin he's the X factor for that offense. Like, he is your best offensive player is Terry McLaurin. And if Sam Howell doesn't have him, it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season. That's the only thing that concerns me. If he's healthy, if he can play through the toe injury and be effective, this should be an easy over.
Yeah, because you're going to have him, and then you're going to have other weapons. You got Dots in there. Antonio Gibson can do some things out of the backfield, and you're hoping
What's the
that
other running back? What's the other running back? He was a rookie last year.
let me
Brian
look quickly.
Robertson or
Yeah, the guy
something.
got shot in the leg, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like he was coming off of getting shot in the leg and having surgery on his leg, and towards the end of the season, you started to see flashes of why they drafted him. If he can be explosive this year, that's going to do wonders for them as well.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so yeah, Commanders over. Lock that in. Feel pretty good about that one. Let's hit the next one, and this is just like in order of like the Vegas lines, but we don't got to take long to get the Lerk's New York Giants. Their line's at 7.5. They were a 9-7-1 team last year. Obviously, had that playoff win against the Vikings, which their season overall plus the playoff win, surprised a lot of people. But they seem to be continuing to. Their next step is trying to build off of that success. Again, we all kind of agree that the Giants will be over that 7.5 last year. Bobby, why do you like the Giants this year?
My thing with the Giants is I feel like the line is disrespectfully low, just like a lot of these NFC East teams. And what we saw last year, I don't think it's a fluke. Brian Daboll put a great performance together with them. A whole 9-win season. I don't think anyone really saw that happening. I think everything going on with Danny Dimes, I think he's solid. I think what we saw last year is not an illusion. It's not. It's real. And to me, that it just seems really low. Obviously, looking at the schedule, having to go to Buffalo, and we'll bring that up for every single one of these NFC East teams, very difficult. But across the board, I think it's pretty manageable, all things considered, for the Giants. So yeah, I think that's an over to me. This is a super manageable schedule. A team that was really good last year. I don't see any regression there. So yeah, give me the over.
Yeah, for me, I just think it's another one where, like I said, they're building off of last year. 7.5 shouldn't be hard. You're coming off a year again where you put everything together, made the playoff run, got the playoff win, and now you just have to build off of that. Saquon got his money. The defense, you got guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, a year older. You have another year under Brian Daboll in that system to put everything together. Wink Martindale comes over as well to help, bolster that team. We saw what he's done in Baltimore. So, there's like playoffs is going to be another conversation, and I don't think they'll have an issue going to the playoffs actually because the NFC is so bad. But if we're talking about strictly getting over that 7.5, I don't think it's going to be a problem for them. Brian Daboll literally has people, you know, high on Daniel Jones from the standpoint of, okay, yeah, like, we see him as like a top 10, guy, in terms of quarterback in the league. So, um, I, like, I'll let Larry, go. I don't really have that much to say. I just, don't see a way where, this team doesn't continue to progress. Again, at least getting over that 7.5. Other than obviously injuries, which could happen to anybody, but like, everybody stays healthy. Brian Daboll continues to do his thing. Daniel Jones protects the football. Uh, that should be easy over.
Uh, Max, as long as you and I have known each other and spoken to each other about football, when have you heard me not defend Daniel Jones? Like
Yeah,
even before Dave's got there, like I've always been defending him. I've never called him elite. I've never tried to put him on a pedestal, but I've constantly defended him because I felt like people shit on him without taking in to consideration so many different factors. Like the fact that Dayball is his third head coach in the league and he's going into his fifth year. Mike Kafka's his fifth offensive coordinator and he's going into his fifth year.
Yeah.
He's had about 4 quarterback coaches. Like Saquon, last year was the first time he was healthy for a full season since Daniel Jones got to the NFL. Sterling Shepard has never been healthy his entire career. Evan Ingram couldn't stay healthy, and he had Butterfingers the whole time he played in MetLife. Odell couldn't stay healthy, and we got rid of him. Like the Giants have been plagued by injuries Daniel Jones' entire career, and somehow, some way, it's always in the receiver room. Even last year, we had Isaiah Hodgins, who was on the practice squad. Darius Slayton started the season on an inactive list. Those were our 2 leading receivers last year. Saquon was one of our leading receivers last year. He's our running back. Like, he's constantly, like, thrown to a bunch of random ass people. Like, I was even talking to Dion about this yesterday, and I was trying to explain to him, like, you can talk about, like, oh, how his timing is off, late passes or whatever, throwing behind the receiver, but nobody ever brings up the fact that he's never played with this person before. Like there's like Daniel Jones doesn't know what it is to have chemistry with a receiver. Like, that's why everybody's so excited about what the little bit we've seen between him and Darren Waller, because they've been able to build some type of rapport, working with each other in training camp, doing private workouts together to try to build a rapport and learn each other. And Daniel Jones, I don't think he's top 10. Whoever put him in top 10 already is bugging. I think he has potential to be top 10, but that's also because I don't think there's that many good quarterbacks in the NFL. But the Giants address the biggest issue with the offense last year was the lack of explosive plays, right? They didn't have a lot of big plays. And if it was a big play, 9 times out of 10, it was on the ground. It wasn't through the air. Whenever people bring up Daniel Jones being in the top 10 in the QBR, you talk about his lack of pass attempts in comparison to the rest of the league. I brought up his deep ball accuracy and how he ranked in the top 10 in deep ball accuracy 2 of his first 4 years in the NFL. And the rebuttal was the number of attempts he had in comparison to everybody else, or who else was in the top 10 wasn't that very good. Daniel Jones, there's 2 things I've always loved about him since day one: his deep ball accuracy and his accuracy while throwing on the run. You look at the film, say what you want about the guy. Look at the film. When Daniel Jones is throwing on the run, especially one of the toughest throws in the league, throwing across the body, he's accurate than most of the quarterbacks in the league. He's very efficient at throwing on the run. He's efficient at throwing deep passes. He just hasn't had that many opportunities. What did the Giants do this offseason? You bring in one of the best tight ends in the NFL, one of the most athletic players in the NFL, in Darren Waller. Now, we're going to have to see if he's going to be able to stay healthy, but you bring in Darren Waller, you bring in Paris Campbell, you bring in Jamison Crowder, you draft Jalen Hyatt. That tells me that not only forget about the fact that they gave him the contract extension, right? That tells me that you believe in him. And what we saw last year was due to a lack of resources, not due to a lack of skill or talent. So now this is the year, health on our side, that Daniel Jones has to prove me right and everybody else wrong. That if you give him some weapons, he can make shit happen. And then he emerged by design. He emerged as one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL. He was top 4 in rushing yards and touchdowns for quarterbacks last year. And most of it was by design. It wasn't like his first few years where he was running for his life. He's shown that he can be an accurate passer if you give him a few seconds to get the ball out of his hands. He's shown that he can get the ball downfield on deep throws. He can make the big play. As long as you can catch it, he'll get the ball to you. And now they've brought in the weapons. I've fallen in love with Jalen Hyatt. It's only training camp and preseason. I will be honest, didn't see a single play of his in college. I love everything I've seen during training camp and preseason. Every day I'm on the Giants YouTube page checking out what's going on at practice or training camp. And I don't know if y'all watched the preseason game Saturday or Friday or Saturday. They had a preseason game against your Panthers. I know you watched the game, Max. It was against the Panthers.
Yeah.
So you saw second string quarterback Tyrod Taylor throws the ball to a wide open Jalen Wyatt on an intermediate out route. He drops the ball wide open, bounces off his hands. Very next play, 30-yard touchdown pass. Deep post to the right, dusted the secondary. Granted, it wasn't a starter that was defending him. But the fact that you could put that behind you and on the very next play, go out there and make shit happen and put on full display your speed, I'm here for it. Very first drive of the game, Giants go down the field for 75 yards. They didn't even have the ball for 5 minutes. That shows me, granted, again, it's only preseason. I can't get too excited. But the good thing is to see that they went out there and added a bunch of speed. And we saw that speed on full display. And that was without Saquon Barkley in the lineup. And granted, preseason, Panthers didn't play all their starters, only some of them. But just to see that on display, even with Darren Waller dropping what would have been like a 20-yard game, because he got the shit knocked out of him. Shout out to your Panthers. They do hit hard. But everything that y'all talked about with what Brian Daboll brought to the table, and then you got an offensive genius like Mike Kafka. Mark Weedingdale, I always say his name wrong. The defensive coordinator is one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the entire industry, let alone just the NFL. Like, Wink Martindale, there you go. That's his name, Wink Martindale. So, between the coaching staff, the offseason moves, in my opinion, and based off of talking to y'all and a few other people that I know are much more invested in the college football than myself, we had a really good draft. If those rookies pan out, look, two our projected starting cornerbacks are rookies that have been showing their ass. So, if the defense can stop the run for once, because we haven't been able to stop the run in like 3-4 years, if they can stop the run and Darren Waller stays healthy, Paris Campbell shows that he can stay healthy again, Saquon Barkley shows that he can stay healthy again, I don't give a fuck how tough our schedule looks. We are a double-digit win team.
I gotta say, I absolutely love the Hyatt edition. Explosive. We saw it at Tennessee. The guy was absolutely remarkable. And then you have that safety blanket that is Darren Waller. I think he's going to thrive as well. So you have the explosiveness in the backfield with Saquon Barkley. You have the explosiveness in wide receivers with Hyatt. Hopefully, my guy Sterling Shepard stays healthy. Would love to see that. We know I'm just hoping it's going to happen. I'm not going to jinx anything. I love Shep. Love the guy. That's my guy. Played high school football together. I want him to do okay.
That's dope. You played with Shep?
Yeah. We won a state chip. Well, I say we. I didn't do shit. I was a freshman. Shep carried. Yeah. We played 2 years. I was freshman, sophomore. We were only like small. It was a small school too, so it was like pretty small group. But yeah, me and Shep. Okay, Shep. It was Shep, and I was there. But he was my guy. Man.
Nah, I'll fuck with him. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, super great guy.
Shout out to him for leaving his baby moms, too. Shout out to him. That was toxic. He was in a very toxic situation. He got out of there. Shout out to him.
I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, happy for him with the divorce. But just stay on the field, bro. That's what I need more than anything. I need you to be able to stay on the field, bro.
Absolutely.
Real quick, Max.
Yeah.
Quick, sorry, you go. I just want to be clear. Saquon ain't get his money. Saquon signed for essentially $1 million more than the franchise tag, with a little bit more money guaranteed.
Yeah, thank you.
He signed for $1 million more, but $950,000 of that is incentives.
Thank you for correcting me. What I meant to say was like that situation is like, at least for this year, it's it's been resolved, I guess, or whatever, however you want to say it's been. They'll have to figure it out after this season. But yeah, I think everything you said is great, and Hyatt looked good in that game. The defensive line looks amazing. It's actually crazy how like the Jets and the Giants have like insane defensive lines. Like people are going to be watching a lot of good defense in New York this year. But
shout out Sexy Dexy, that's my guy. Dexter Lawrence is one of my favorite players, bro.
On that note, on that nickname, we're going to move on to the Cowboys.
Yo, that's his nickname. That's his nickname. Every time he gets a sack, he does this like promiscuous dance, and then they go Dexy with another sack.
All right. Cowboys line is 10.5 for them. Their record last year was 12-5. Obviously, had a phenomenal year, except for the playoffs, which feels like we say that about them a lot. But this is where we finally sort of disagree on whether or not they'll be over or under. They've got a lot of things going on. Every year it seems like we always have something to say about the Cowboys, but they got the Zach Martin deal figured out. Obviously Zeke moved on. There's a Tony Pollard's team now. Dak's there. We all know. All their their roster. Everyone. Yada yada. Whatever. Okay. I have the under. And I'll just go ahead and say why, and I'll let y'all rock. I think that here's the reason why, because I know Cowboys fans are gonna tear my head off. I think I have to look at the NFC, look at the NFL. We know every year, I say this damn near every show, right? Since we've been doing these previews, half the teams that made the playoffs last year will not make it back this year, and even within that stat, there are teams that do worse than they did last year, even if they make it back to the playoffs. So if using that thought experiment to predict a team that may not get there this year, not saying the Cowboys will always be bad, but just for this year, I feel like the Cowboys is a good candidate to pick on because, yeah, they have a really talented roster, but they've had a lot of drama this offseason. Mike McCarthy is still their coach. There's been a lot of questions about Dak, about just a lot of the roster. There was an incident with Trayvon Diggs, and they got in a little scuffle, and everybody. And it wasn't even a scuffle. That was like straight up disrespect. Like what?
Wait,
like
are you talking? What? Wait, was there a fight, or are you talking about when he told Dak to shut his bitch ass up?
I said scuffle, and that's not what I was trying to say. Like I'm going to say
something else happened.
Yeah, no. I'm going to say altercation, like just to describe their kind of argument, like and what you just said. So that happened, and so I think to me they can say what they want to say. To me, like that was disrespectful as hell. You would not hear anybody talk to any quarterback that way that they respected. And maybe like it's just Diggs who thinks he's a celebrity and he's got too much dip on his ship. That could be the case. Went through something similar in Carolina with Josh Norman and Cam. Like they fought or whatever, but that was the Super Bowl year. So, but anyway, whatever. I just think like we're picking candidates to have it down here. I got to pick on the Cowboys. Like it happens. It's the NFL. The NFL is a parity league where good teams that had a good year last year fall off. I think Dallas is a good target because I think the NFC East is really strong. You have teams trending up, and Dallas has been good for the last couple of years, but they've been stagnant. They're losing playoff games in bad ways. And I think this year is the year that they could catch up to them. So I have them under the 10.5. How much under, I don't know. But I just don't feel like it's going to be a good year this year. To me, it's not going to be a good year for them this year.
I am 100% on your side here. I got the Cowboys under as well because primarily everyone else in the NFC East got better. Cowboys stayed the same, if not got a little worse. Not only that, but their schedule this year, a lot more difficult than it was last year. You have to go to San Francisco, you have to go to LA to face the Chargers, and then you have to go to Buffalo in December. So a far cry from your safe confines of the dome at Jerry World. You know, that's going to be a tough run for the Cowboys.
Bobby,
and
my bad to interrupt you. Going to Buffalo to December, and then the following week, got to go to Miami. you don't play in the blizzard one week, and then play in the damn by the beach like the next week. Like that's, I can't imagine what that would do to somebody's body. Like to go from the cold to the hot, like back to back weeks. Like that's gonna be crazy for them. But go ahead.
Back and forth. Hey, and it's Christmas Eve in Miami. I don't know why. That just makes me feel like they'll be distracted for multiple reasons. So, anyways, yeah, I feel like this is a year that the Cowboys kind of dip off. Schedule is a lot tougher. I know they were impressive last year. They had that great run with Cooper Rush when Dak was out, but people have tape on Tony Pollard now. They know he's the guy. It just doesn't seem like they don't seem like a team to me that got better. Everyone else got better. I just think we'll see a lot more losses. I have them around like 10 wins, 9 wins, something like that. I think this is where this is a one team to regress in the NFC East.
I kind of feel some type of way that I'm the only person that has the Cowboys over, and there's not a sports franchise in the world that I hate more than Dallas Cowboys. Hey, as a lifelong Giants fan, and I believe I'm older than both of y'all. Like lifelong Giants fan, bro. Like I've grown, and my father's a Cowboys fan, just like an extra reason to hate them and pray on their downfall. Like, and I have them over. I don't think they got worse. I think they actually got better. First things first, Ezekiel Elliott's not on the roster no more. Tony Pollard is legit, and he can run the shit out of the ball. He's a good receiver, and he's a solid pass protector. Then Kellen Moore's not the offensive coordinator no more. Like, I think that's one of the most underrated moves of the offseason was that the Cowboys got Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator instead of Kellen Moore. I'm not saying Brian Schottenheimer is fucking the best offensive coordinator or play caller, but that might be the biggest upgrade on a coaching staff outside of like head coaches in the entire fucking NFL. And maybe the Commanders. Maybe the Commanders getting Bieniemy, however you say his name, Bieniemy, as the offensive coordinator. Maybe that's arguably like the biggest upgrade, like assistant coach wise. But getting Brian Schottenheimer, that offense should look completely different next year. Not having Ezekiel Elliott, that means you can get more creative with the run game and the play calling because Tony Pollard is an excellent receiver. Then you added Brandon Cooks. The deep threat you lost when you got rid of Amari Cooper, you just regained that. Gallup, this is what, now a year removed from the ACL injury? Like, he came back mid-season last year. Now he's had a healthy offseason and training camp to get his legs right. He is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated receivers when healthy. So, and then their best quarterback is the second string. Like, say what you want, hot take of the year, I guess. Cooper Rush is the better quarterback.
And you can't forget about CeeDee Lamb either. CeeDee Lamb is a hell of a player.
CeeDee Lamb is a hell of a player, but I have the same problem with him that I have with Jamar Chase. Drop the damn ball too much. I cannot call you, like, I will not put you on the same pedestal as everybody else if every time I turn around, you dropping a wide open pass.
Yeah, I don't want to go, so I want to move on. I don't want to go down far to this, but you sparked something when you said, like, talking about Brian Schottenheimer coming in. What I'm curious about with the Cowboys, and again, this may be another reason to support, Bobby and I's argument. Kellen Moore is the Chargers is on the Chargers now, and we're gonna see like we'll see like was Dak over the last couple of years uh was that more Dak, was it Kellen Moore, what's Kellen Moore gonna do for Justin Herbert? Like I think that is another interesting part of this whole thing too. You make a good point with the running game and how that changes now because you've eliminated that as well. So I think it might be a little bit tough to really like figure out what the like kind of some of the differences are. But Kellen Moore, I think even Cowboys fans would say, yeah, he had a big effect on what we saw from Dak over the last couple of years. So that's just another thing I want to point out. But
I think personally, I felt like Kellen Moore was one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL.
Everything I've heard from my Cowboys friends cannot stand Kellen Moore. They hate the guy.
He's horrible. Like let's just go back to the playoffs. And you go to the last offensive play that the Cowboys did. Why was Ezekiel Elliott in that position? Why was he? What was he in front of the nose tackle?
I just realized that's Ezekiel Elliott's last play as a Cowboy.
Yeah,
that's how they sent him off.
So, but and then to your point about the Chargers, I don't know how much of an impact Kellen Moore is gonna have on that offense when that head coach is as stubborn as he is.
Yeah, that's another podcast. I hate Brandon Staley. All right, let's go to the Eagles' last team in the NFC East, which you discussed. Obviously, their line is 11.5. NFC champs. Dang, it's crazy how many times the Eagles have been to the Super Bowl in their history and like not won. They have one championship.
They only won once,
and they've been there like 8 times. That's crazy.
Is it that many?
No, I exaggerated.
But I know in my lifetime it's been 3, but I feel like they've been there before that.
Yeah, I want to say 5. Let me Google it real quick. But yeah, their line is, or Bobby, you got it. Yeah, their line is 11.5. Last year they were 14-3. And yeah, go ahead.
They've only made it 4 times. 81, 2005, 2018, 2023.
Wasn't it 2004?
It was the season was 2004, 2005. So it was like February 2005. Yeah,
they call it the 2004 champions. But it was in 2005. Yeah. That's when Terrell Owens played in the Super Bowl with screws in his foot.
Yeah,
crazy. It's also, we keep going on tangents, but it's also crazy that Super Bowl was in Jacksonville, and that was like the only time it's ever been in Jacksonville. They were like, "Yeah, we're not doing this again." That's OD. But, okay, all right, 11.5 is their over under. Jalen Hurts another year. Listen, I got them with the under, and that's not me hating on the Eagles or anything like that. This is what I think is up with them. I think they're going to be a playoff team again, as you'll see later. I think they win the division again. My thing with the Eagles is, although I believe what I said about the Cowboys, I do think the division as a whole could be better than it was last year, and probably just as competitive, if not more. So you have to consider that. You have to consider that now they play a first place schedule. You have to consider the Super Bowl. I mean, they made it the Super Bowl, so they're not sneaking up on anybody. Big target on their back. How does Nick Sirianni handle that as a young head coach? I believe like Andy Reid and Bill Belichick are the only coaches that have been able to like withstand the Super Bowl curse, especially losing it. Like, other teams, other coaches like have a hard time with that. So I'm considering those factors. And then the biggest thing that nobody's talking about, or that I've only heard a few people say or talk about, is that the Eagles lost, I believe, both coordinators, offense and defense. And so I think especially when the head coach is not a Belichick or a Andy Reid type guy or a Nick Saban, like when you lose assistants, man, that could be a big blow. And so now, like Jalen Hurts, like you hope he's at a level now where he can be great regardless of coordinator. But we got to recognize, like, no Shane Steichen, again, and also defense coordinator as well. Like, what are the Eagles going to be like next year? I think they can still be good enough to win the division, but over 11 and a half, I would be nervous about that. I would probably say like 10, 11 wins might be the outcome. We'll see. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm taking the under.
I could see a dip, and I would be kind of concerned about Jalen Hurts fresh off of earning a contract. If it wasn't Jalen Hurts, he is a hard worker. He seems like the type of guy who wouldn't be bothered by it. Just keep grinding, keep trying to get better, and trying to just be focused on trying to win a Super Bowl. To me, I feel like the Eagles, they reloaded on defense, just really stacked up in the NFL draft. I love their picks, just getting a bunch of Georgia guys. Loved that. And to me, I think there might be a dip. I don't know if they'll be 14-3 again. That was an incredible run last year, but to me, I feel like they can get this over. Obviously, tough schedule having Kansas City and Buffalo not only back to back, but on a short week because you play Kansas City on Monday and Buffalo on Sunday. That's pretty brutal. But at the same time, I feel like this is a pretty damn good football team. And I think another year for them to gel. That new offensive coordinator has a long-term relationship with Jalen Hurts as well. I feel pretty good about him.
And then to piggyback off of Bobby, because I'm in support of Bobby that this is over. The Eagles, if you look at their franchise, right? Like you brought up they only got one ring, but they always like they've been to 4 of them or whatever. They've been to 3 in the past 18 years, 20 years, right? The one thing about the Eagles is, regardless of who's the coach, regardless of who's the coordinators, regardless of who's the GM, they're one of those model franchises in the sense of they always draft good. They always play free agency smart. Like, literally, no matter who's in the front office, who's on the sideline, they've built up a culture over the years where they're like the Miami Heat of the NFL, where they're never really tanking, and every once in a while they'll have such a bad season that they get a top 5 pick without having to trade for it. But for the most part, they build up these teams that are at least in playoff contention. And even when you have the lowest of low expectations, they end up fighting for a wild card spot. Like, the Eagles are a team that it doesn't matter what year it is, who's at what position, who the fuck gets hurt. They, outside of quarterback, they always tend to have this depth at damn near every position where they can it doesn't matter, next man up. It doesn't matter who's the coach on the sideline. Like, they always have a good coach. Regardless of, outside of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was shitty for them. But shout out to Chip Kelly. I miss him being the Eagles head coach.
Always a good win for y'all.
The Eagles have a culture. They are what the Giants used to be, like pre-2015, 2016. They're what the Patriots are, but with less banners. They're like winning the Super Bowl, winning the championship in any sport at any level is fucking difficult. It's one of the hardest things to fucking do. But they're always in contention, at least for the postseason. And then they have their Cinderella runs, or they have fucking really good fucking seasons. Everything starts to click at the right time, like last year. And, you just go up against the monster of Mahomes and the Chiefs, but they're one of those teams where it doesn't matter, bro. They're gonna be there at the end of the season. And when you look at their roster, they added Jalen Carter in the draft, which was a tremendous pickup. Like, him falling to them is crazy. You still have all the pieces that you had for the most part. The only place where I feel like they downgraded was running back. Losing Miles Sanders and going out there and getting DeAndre Swift, that's a significant downgrade in my opinion. But again, they have this fucking culture over there where none of that shit fucking matters. And as much as I hate to admit it as an Eagles hater, Jalen Hurts is legit too. Like, he's fucking legit. He's proved me wrong. Maybe he turns out to be another Cam Newton, has a couple good seasons, and then falls off a fucking cliff. But he's legit. He's top 5 in my eyes. As of right now, he's a top 5 QB in the NFL. And as long as you have a top 5 QB in the NFL, especially in today's NFL where you need to be a dual threat, I love them with the over. Like, 11.5 seems like a lot, but I see them at minimum 12, 13 wins.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily fall back from where they were last year and still win 12 games. Like, that would technically be a fallback, but that would still be the over. So, I mean, to me, like, this number is a stay away because of that. Like, they could be as good as last year. They could fall back only a couple games, only one game. Like, I wouldn't touch this at all because you don't want to, whatever. But yeah, like, it's. I mean, we'll see. I think we kind of all agree with the sentiment that the Eagles are still going to be good though, going into next year.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some superlatives for the NFC East, and we're going to begin with the NFC East MVP. I like Micah Parsons. I know I said the Cowboys wouldn't be good, but I feel like this is going to be the year where he, makes that DPOY run. He's going to do his job. He's going to dominate. He's going to do what he has to do. Micah Parsons is going to do his thing. I believe in him.
Yeah, I got Jalen Hurts. It's chalk. It's lame, but he's the truth. And that's, if we're just being honest, he's the best player in the division. And in my opinion, probably the best player in football, which is astonishing. And I'm a guy who liked him. He was at OU. Thought he was great. Never in my wildest dreams did I think he'd be this. And you got to give it up to him. I think he will just keep getting better.
Actually, you just sparked a comment that I forgot I was going to say. I think Micah Parsons is the best player in the division. I don't mind anybody thinking Jalen Hurts is, but I was going to add that. To me, Micah Parsons is the best player in the division. Even though
I'm not mad at either one of those statements. What I can't get past is Bobby saying is that he thinks he might be the best player in football. He's not even the top 3 quarterback.
I mean, I think he's just dynamic. What he does, no one really does exactly that in terms of his size, his throwing ability. I think he's great.
You ever heard of this guy in Buffalo, Josh Allen?
I mean, Josh Allen, he's fine. Yeah, but here's my thing. I just feel like Jalen's strength is just at a different level than Allen's is.
My top 3: Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. You have Hurts above any of those 3 at quarterback.
I think that's an interesting thing. Is I feel like it's like this weird kind of, if you went with like a pure quarterback, it's like those 3 feel like they're better at being a quarterback, but what Hurts brings in on the on the running aspect really changes everything. He breaks them all.
Josh Allen had more rushing yards than him last year.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and I think they had the same amount of touchdowns. Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes are also really good at running the ball. Granted, they're not Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts rushes way more than them, but even at that aspect, like 2023 quarterback, modern day quarterback, what you want in a quarterback in the NFL, you think Jalen Hurts is better than any of those three. Would you take Jalen Hurts right now over any of those three?
That's a really good question, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm a college football guy, and I think I respect your opinion a little bit more than I do my own. So I'm a tap out on this one because when you bring it up, there's some damn good quarterbacks in the NFL, and I'm starting to back up on it. It's really tough because they're all really good.
And that's why I say he can't be the best football player. Like, you can't be the best player in football if you're not even the best at your position.
It's tough because it's like a tier to me, and I think they're just on a totally different level. And I think it would be a little bit more clear if we saw Hurts play Mahomes. If we saw him, and I know it's quarterbacking. You're not going up against them exactly, but it's.
I saw it happen in the Super Bowl. Mahomes won that battle.
It was a great game. I thought it was a very good game. Yeah. I thought it was close. I thought it was like a pretty solid game, but ultimately Mahomes has been there. I think that's part of it. So you know what? I think I'm gonna retract that take a little bit, pull it back. Maybe refine it a little bit, because look, I'm somebody who's not going to try to argue an argument that I think I might be outfoxed on this one. So I'm gonna put up the white flag. I'm just gonna be frank.
I appreciate you conceding. That's exactly how I expected it to go. But back to the question, Max. I'm sorry for getting the show off topic again. We went off on a little tangent. I just couldn't let that comment slide. But division MVP, I think, is Parsons or Barkley. Now I know I'm taking the coward's way out by naming two people, but I feel like the Eagles, in my opinion. We're going to get to this, I know, but in my opinion, Eagles win this division, right? The Eagles are going to take this division. But I feel like depending on who comes out, like, second or third, like, who helps their team a little bit more than the other is going to determine for me, like, who's the MVP of the division between Parsons and Barkley.
Two players is fine, and I think, like, no one would argue against Saquon's value on the Giants or Parsons' value to the Cowboys. I think that's kind of the point of it. It's like, who's the most valuable to their team? I think those are both great answers. Now, Coach of the Year. This kind of goes back to my prediction of the Commanders being a possible playoff team. I think if they accomplish that, because people still don't really believe in them for good reason. But I think Ron Rivera could definitely be an NFC East Coach of the Year if he's able to maximize what they have in Washington and take them to the playoffs. Now, I said Rivera / EB because I definitely see a scenario where, especially if that offense is going crazy, top 15, top 10 in the league, everyone's going to be like, oh, well, yeah, Eric Bieniemy went in there and made Sam Howell a star, or whatever. So, hey, that might be the case, and if that's the case, then okay, Eric Bieniemy is assistant coach of the year in the NFC East. So, hey, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I got Rivera / EB.
I got Dayball here. I think he's just going to keep on rolling, keep that thing going with the Giants, and I think they take a leap, a little bit of a leap. Double-digit wins, maybe. I don't think that's crazy talk. But and I will say this: maybe they have one of those runs like the Giants always do, where maybe they don't have like all of the wins in the regular season, but they get hot in the postseason. I could see that type of run out of the Giants because we always see it out of the Giants.
I almost jumped the gun and said something, but I'm chill. I don't want to get too hype. I don't want to put myself on record making such a bold take so early, and like the season ain't even started yet. But I'm with everything Bobby said. I got Dabo. I think we're a double-digit win team this year. But I think even if we win double-digit games and things work out for the Commanders the way Max predicts, which I don't see happening, but if they're a playoff team, I think it's going to Rivera. or Bieniemy, because I could easily see them starting out like 0-3, firing Ron. EB takes over and they go on this fucking run and make the wild card or whatever. I could see them, as long as they get into the playoffs, I think guaranteed coach of the, like, that's the coach of the year or whatever. But I still got Dave's. Dave's my guy. I think maybe this is a hot take for you guys. I think Daboll's the best coach in the division. And I know it's only been 1 year. I think he's the best coach in the division.
I am not going to argue against that. And that's because it doesn't sound wrong, but I really just don't know how good of a coach Sirianni is. Like, that's the thing that but how good? You know what I'm saying? Like, Ron Rivera is a good coach, but like, I don't know.
I mean, they got to the Super Bowl.
A lot of coaches have. Rivera got in the Super Bowl as well. So it's like Sirianni, I think, I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but I think how good remains to be seen. I like Daboll a little better because of his reputation before he got to the Giants and then what he's able to do in New York. So again, if you're like Daboll's the best coach in the division, not going to argue with you at all because to me it's between him and Sirianni. And I just need a bigger sample size with Sirianni to see, like, to make the argument.
Like, for the sake of debate, one would like argue like Daboll's only coached 1 year, but I agree with you though. Like, obviously, like the reputation that preceded him, because my whole shit, like going into this year, I know we got other stuff to talk about. I don't want to spend too much time on this. No. I'm sorry, but like going into this first season, I kept questioning how much was the Bills' offensive success and Josh Allen's improvement a credit to Daboll, or as opposed to Josh Allen himself and just being that good and being able to put the work in and get himself to that level?
That's a fair question.
And then just seeing what he did last year, it's only 1 year, but again, ton of injuries, limited resources. And you don't know these players just as well as they don't know you or your system. And to get 9 wins out of that team, and in the fashion of a lot of those wins, come from behind wins, gritty wins. A lot of those wins were like, they were ugly. But he got the most out of a little bit. And when you see the little clips on NFL Network and on YouTube or the Giants Instagram and shit, like, I don't know, the Giants haven't had a teacher and someone that instills confidence in the team while also getting on their ass at the same time since Tom Coughlin. We haven't had it like this since Tom Coughlin, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic about Daboll, obviously. And I'm projecting he'll have a big year, but also I'm not certain. Like, Kevin Stefanski went 11-5 his first year, and he's been ass ever since. So you really never know. You really never know, man. But I think with, like what you said, what he's done with so little, with the injuries, all that, I'm optimistic.
Hey, Lerk, the funny thing, one last thing on this, we'll move on. The funny thing about the Super Bowl comment you made is I just realized every NFC East coach has been to the Super Bowl but Daboll. McCarthy,
Daboll
Rivera.
Got rings. What you talking about?
With who? Okay, I'm about to say yeah, as a head coach, McCarthy, Rivera, and Sirianni all been to the Super Bowl before. Daboll has. I'm not saying
that's crazy.
Nah, McCarthy won his. McCarthy won his.
Oh yeah, he got his with Rodgers.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right. Winner of the NFC East, we all agree, so the Eagles. We don't need to hash that out. Eagles, whatever. Last place. This is where we disagree, but I think we already kind of talked about the reasons. Commanders, Bobby and Larry are voting them in the last place. I think that is going to be what a lot of people do. That's the chalk of the NFC East you have. Even if you think the Giants missed the playoffs or the Cowboys or whatever, like Commanders in last place is a common idea. I don't think we need to necessarily talk about that. I picked the Cowboys again, just saying that's a team I feel like could fall back in the NFL. So if I have the Commanders and the Giants and the Eagles being damn near playoff teams, somebody's got to be last place. I think it'll be the Cowboys. All right, how many playoff teams come out of the NFC East? We all have the same answer, and that's 3. I almost said 2 because of the next division we're going to talk about, and I strongly believe that 2 teams will come out of the NFC North to make the playoffs, and the Lions and the Vikings. I almost said 2 in this division because you can only have 7 overall, so it had to be 2, and then 1. I think only 1 team from the NFC South goes. But I like the 3 teams in this division more than I like a second team coming out of the NFC West. So that's the reason I have 3. I'll let you guys chime in on how you feel. I think this is another 3-team playoff year for the East.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really deep, and I think a lot of divisions just aren't as deep. I think a lot of people are getting. I wasn't able to talk about the NFC North last week, but I think a lot of people are anointing the Lions a little bit too early. I don't think they're there yet, and I think that's where the difference is made here. As I think when it comes to the wild card, I think the Commanders are will be a little bit better than the Lions there.
I agree with half that statement. I think the Lions are getting anointed way too early, and I think it's the Cowboys, not the Commanders. Like I think the Commanders are. I think there's 3 teams, but it's the Commanders that don't make the cut.
I absolutely botched that because I had the Commanders last, so I did not mean the Commanders there. I bet that either the Giants or the Cowboys. I kind of think it would be the Giants being the ones to be the last in, but it's going to be a tight race. I think it's going to be a really good NFC NFC East divisional race, like really down to the wire, awesome stuff.
I expect at least like 70% of the NFC East divisional matchups to be like really tight and play old school football with a lot of physicality coming down to the wire. And well, I mean, I think the Eagles dominate the division, but the rest of the games, that's why I said at least 70%. I think the NFC East is going to be tough for the teams, but I just don't see the Commanders making the playoffs. Next year is where I see like shit going different for them. Maybe all depends on how things shake out for them at quarterback right now. Cause I think going all in on Sam Howell when you could have been focused on this upcoming draft is wild behavior. But that's just my opinion.
Eagles at Giants last game of the year too. That's going to be nuts.
That's a tradition. For a long time, even though they broke the tradition for a couple years, for a long time, the tradition is start the season against the Cowboys and the season against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Max.
No. I was going to say the last thing I'll say about the NFC East is I think the NFL is much better when the NFC East is good. Especially if you're like more of an NFC fan and you watch a lot of Fox. Like when the NFC East is strong, like it's just better for the league. I think it's just one of the divisions with a lot of history. The rivalries are really good or strong. So, yeah. All right, let's go to the other side of the country and talk about the NFC West. And we're going to kick it off with the Cardinals. Their total for Vegas is 4.5. This is a team that everyone expects will be getting Caleb Williams or Drake May either by their own pick or by the Texans pick that they own. So it should be an interesting year for them because, just a few years ago, they were in this position with a nosedive to get Kyler Murray. And now, just a few years later, they are back in the driver's seat of getting a number 1 pick. 4-13 was their record last year. Again, their line is 4.5. I got the under. I tried to talk myself into the over for a little bit, but then I looked at the schedule, and I just think every single team they play, with the exception of Houston, is clearly better than they are. Um, the Rams could be a question mark, but like every other team, literally, even Atlanta, like I just don't see that many wins. And who knows, how the Houston thing will turn out because, again they own their picks, so they could be a game where they try not to be competitive on purpose, or or they try their best to win that game. So who knows? I think this is an easy under for me.
I want the over to work out so bad because I want Kyler Murray to turn it around, be okay after his ACL. Looking at the schedule, it's rough, folks. He's not going to probably get back till about midseason, and even then, just it's bad. It's bad, but I'm gonna will it into existence. I think they steal 2, and then Kyler brings them 3 from weeks 10 to 18. But probably Falcons at home. I could see them beat. I'm pretty low on the Rams. I think they beat the Rams. Then mess around and let's say they beat the Bears in Chicago. But this is probably just wishful thinking on my end. I'm going with the Cardinals to have a bounce back. You never know with the NFL. Sometimes there are little sneaky surprises. I think this is one of them.
If you notice, I ain't answer. That's the one thing that I really spent like 5 minutes just looking at it, and I'm like, yo, this could really go either way. You don't know when Kyler's gonna come back. You don't know what he's gonna look like when he comes back. Even when he does come back, who the fuck is he throwing the ball to?
I could see
James Conner is your starting running back. Like that says enough.
Kyler.
I don't think Marquise Brown is that good. Yeah, what you gonna say?
No. To the point about Kyler, like coming back, I think Kyler is the type of dude that could be healthy and be like, you know what, I'm not risking further injury on this team, especially if it becomes clear that they are actively tanking. Like, and you have the sense that they don't want to continue their relationship with Kyler. I can see him being like, all right, this team doesn't want me. They're trying to get Caleb, Drake, whoever. I'm not gonna stick around, for an organization that doesn't value me. Like I could see him like, even with the option to come back, I could see him sitting out on purpose. Go ahead.
But didn't he sign a 5-year, $230 million contract this offseason after the surgery?
That was before, I thought.
When did he sign the contract?
I'm pretty sure it was last summer. I could be wrong. I mean, it would be absolutely insane for the Cardinals to agree to that. It
was last year. It was last year because everyone was talking about the gaming.
That was last year.
Clause.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because he had the holdout. Okay.
Everyone last year was talking about how he played video games. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't start until next year either. So
that I don't know. They already signed him. It is the Cardinals. I could see them still having him as starting quarterback next year. Like, I could see them getting rid of that pick, like how Houston, right? Who was it? Houston got the first pick this year and then traded it to T.I.?
Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like Chicago believed in Justin Fields enough to say, you know what? We believe in Justin Fields more than the quarterbacks coming out of this class. Maybe Arizona feels the same way about Kyler. I don't know. 4.5 wins though. I feel like it's disrespectful to any professional football team to say that they can't win 5 games. But at the same time, we've seen it happen before, where teams will win 4 games, 3 games, 2 games. If you live in Michigan, your team will win 0 games. Like, we've seen it. But to like not even win 5 games feel disrespectful. I don't know when Kyle is coming back. I don't know. I don't even. I'm gonna take the coward's way out, and I'm gonna abstain. I plead the fifth.
That's fine. I feel like now that we have a 17 game schedule, which I never liked that they did that, but it's even harder to predict. Like, how do you not win at least 5 games in 17? Like, that's tough.
But they did it last year. That's the crazy shit.
Yeah.
They won 4, but they were also starting Trace McSorley and some guy named David Blau. So pretty bad.
Who's their starting quarterback right now? Colt McCoy?
They're sitting Colt McCoy's old ass out there. So I have how does this guy still have a job?
No, that's crazy, bro.
And then again, your starting running back is James Conner. He's not that good.
Yeah. I'm so
Marquise Brown, he's okay. Rondale Moore is okay. Who's this Greg Dort that's playing tight end? Oh, as their slot.
Yeah, because they're running with Ertz at tight end right now.
Ertz can't stay healthy.
No,
he don't exist.
I'm pretty sure Hollywood Brown got hurt last year.
And then they addressed the offensive line this offseason. We'll see how that goes. I've seen teams address the offensive line plenty of times and they do nothing. So we'll see how that works out for them. But I don't know. This could go either way. But I still feel like telling me that an NFL team, telling the NFL team they can't win 5 games is just disrespect.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to lose that many games. But
you know what? Just off of that principle alone, I'm gonna say they're not gonna do this 2 years in a row. They win at least 5 games.
Okay. All right, let's got the over. Let's got the over for the Cardinals. From one bad team to a possibly another, the Rams, their line is 6.5, a little bit more respectful by Vegas. They were 5-12 last year. I've got the over on the Rams out of respect for Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. More McVay than Stafford. I just think McVay is a really, really good head coach. And so losing not being able to win 7 games, even with the roster that they have, that would shock me. That would really shock me. Matt Stafford as well. Matt Stafford isn't a world beater, but 7 you get 7 wins somehow, some way. Looking at their schedule, are the wins there? Absolutely. You got Green Bay. I think they're going to be terrible. You got the Saints. I think they're going to be terrible. You have the Commanders, who, we'll see about them. The Cardinals twice, obviously. They could probably still win against Seattle and still win against maybe not against San Fran, but Indianapolis. So the wins are there. Cleveland. So we'll see. I think 7. I think over is in reach.
Here's my thing. Remember a couple years ago when they, I believe the quote was, "Fuck them picks." This is why you don't do that, because they have no depth. They won a Super Bowl, so it was worth it. But I'm so out on the Rams. This division is matched with the AFC North, dealing with is that AFC North? Dealing with the Bengals and the Ravens and the Steelers. I'm so out on the Rams this year. I think they're kind of over the hill on this one. But they'll always have that Super Bowl DVD to watch, which I recommend them. They should go back and watch those instead of the ball games. But also, Ram fans probably don't exist. So,
Yeah, I'm finished, man. That is dumb funny. I actually have the over. I think this is easy. This is easy. Easy over. Healthy Matt Stafford, healthy Cooper Kupp who returns to practice this week, healthy Cam Akers. The defense is okay. Like they don't have what's this dude's name?
Aaron
I've
Donald?
been no. They still got Donald. I've been
Yeah, I
joking
was
a
about to
little
say.
bit. Jalen Ramsey, there you go. Jalen Ramsey. They don't got Jalen Ramsey no more. He's in Miami. He's hurt anyway, but they don't got Jalen Ramsey no more, who was probably their best. Well, obviously their best cornerback. Secondary is a little shaky, but still got a solid front seven, especially with Aaron Donald there to wreak havoc. Again, healthy Matt Stafford, healthy Cooper Kupp. What was it? 6.5, 7.5?
6.5.
6.5. That's more disrespectful than when you were talking about Bobby with the Commanders being at 6.5. Like, as much as I hate to admit it, like you gotta respect Matt Stafford, bro. Like this dude is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Cooper Kupp, like he was putting up Hall of Fame numbers before the injury. And with the healthy quarterback before he got hurt last year, like he was putting up Hall of Fame numbers, bro. Fantasy football #1 type shit.
Oh, absolutely. My thing is, how
Hey,
far can that tiny white boy get you? I don't know. I mean, he puts up numbers. I think Cup will get his, but they're just not
yeah,
as dynamic this year.
but that's why I said. But that's why I threw out there. You gotta remember, you got a healthy Cam Akers now too. Healthy Cam Akers. Van Jefferson's there still. I mean, he's not like the best, but solid #2. Tyler Higbee's still a solid tight end. They got some weapons over there, and it's only 7 wins. And the schedule's not that crazy. Like Max said, the wins are there. They have the schedule on their side, and I also think I'm not even gonna reveal my cards because we're gonna get to that in a little bit. I'm gonna let y'all do your thing with the show. I'm gonna
All right,
get in.
yeah, no, yeah, you good, you good. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the hardest team to predict. For me, another stay away. Like, I would not even think about betting this with the Rams, but yeah, this is going to be one of the most intriguing teams because we don't know how necessarily. We don't know if they're bad or just bad. We don't know how good they are. Like a lot of questions for Matthew Stafford. Bottom line for me is, I just think good coach, good quarterback, they find ways to win. Maybe this isn't a playoff team, but below 6.5, I can't rock with it. All right, moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. Their line is 9.5 after a record last year of 9-8 and a surprise season from Geno Smith. All of us are in unison about them having the under, though. Larry, why don't you tell us why you're under on Seattle?
10 wins is a lot. We're gonna get to the 49ers in a bit, but you could not everybody's gonna win every game. Like if so, I have the Rams over. And I have the 49ers over. And then we just went through the NFC East and I said I got all four of them going over, right? They play against the NFC West. So like you can't win, like everybody can't win. And if somebody's gonna hit the under, I got it being the Seahawks. I think that they're the same exact team as they were last year. And this could go either way. The only real big upgrade I feel like they made was getting a solid third receiver to go with Lockett and what
Metcalf.
is it, Haskins?
Metcalf.
Metcalf. There you go, Metcalf.
Oh,
So
they
you got
just drafted JSN
that's what I'm
from.
saying. Exactly. So now you got a solid #3 to go with those two. But Geno Smith is still your quarterback, and you didn't really improve anywhere else. I think they're pretty much the same exact team last year, and it's gonna go either way. It's like what you were saying about the Cowboys, but on a lesser scale, where it could really go either way. and they could be a 10-win team, they could be a 9-win, 8-win team. But I think that it's more likely. I think the Rams are going to exceed expectations. I think the 49ers are going to be the 49ers. You're going up against the NFC East, which we just went through already. And then you're also going against the AFC North, which I'm high on. I think that's one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. So, with all that being said, I gotta take the under. I think that they're gonna win anywhere between 7 to 9 games. They probably just missed the cut at 9.
Yeah, I think that your assessment that this team is pretty much kind of the same as they were last year is absolutely right. 9.5 is just too much. And if you look at last year, there were some pretty disgusting losses. I believe they lost to the Panthers. Go in, lose to Atlanta. I mean, there were some losses that make you really confused. This year, tough schedule. Having to play in Cincy, that's not great. At Baltimore, at the Cowboys, I just don't see it this year. I think they'll still be pretty solid. They have to go to the Titans. That's weird. My thing is, I think they'll be solid, but I think 9.5 is just putting them at a bar that's a little bit too high. I just don't expect them to reach it. And we were talking about when we were talking about the Giants. I said that the Giants were not a fluke. I kind of think the Seahawks were a little fluky.
Agreed.
Yeah, people may call me a hater for this or whatever, but I'm surprised they doubled down on Geno Smith. Like, even after last year, like, I don't know, like, you got to give me like another year of like consistency to be able to be like, okay, yeah, I think Geno Smith is solid because think about it, like we saw all these years of him not being great, and now he has a good year, and he could be a guy that deserves to be a starter now moving forward. Or it could have just been a year where everything broke right for him and he put it together and had a good year. Pete Carroll's a good coach. We know that. He's still their head coach. So for me, like, I'm not necessarily convinced yet. I need more from Gino to be able to be like, yeah, he's solid. But as we spoke about, the weapons they have, like, that's going to help a lot. Kenneth Walker the third, JSN, Metcalf, like, they're going to be able to out talent some of these teams. But, for me, like, the under has to do with not necessarily believing in Gino to do what he did last year again, and even at a high level because they won 9 games last year. Now you're asking them to go out and win 10, 11, whatever. So, yeah, I feel really good about the. I feel really, really good about the over. The under for Seattle.
Yeah, and as far as his contract, like them doubling down, I'm with you on that. But at the same time, I feel like it only happened because of the way last season went. They didn't, and the lack of depth of quality quarterbacks in this draft that just went by. Like there wasn't a ton of talent at the position. Not a lot of high ceiling guys, right? You didn't finish high enough to go and get one of the top 3 quarterbacks, right? So, and then look at the bargain they got him for. Based off his production, in my opinion, the lack of quality talent at the position, the lack of quality quarterbacks that were available on the free agent or trade market, and then them not believing in who would be available when it's their turn to pick. 3 years, 75, 40 million guaranteed ain't nothing for a quarterback.
So you're right. And just to clarify the draft point, Seattle did have the 5th pick. So that was, by that time, Bryce Young, Stroud, and Anthony Richardson were all off the board. So
That's what I'm saying. You don't have an opportunity at the top 3 because I'm not a believer in Richardson at all. I think he's gonna be dog shit. But,
Yeah.
Like when you look at his numbers, like I'm sorry, like I just started getting back into college football again last year, and I don't have a ton of like time watching him, but the little bit I saw of him, and then looking at his numbers, specifically his completion percentage, I have zero faith in him as a starting quarterback at any level, let alone the NFL. But but that's just to my point. Like, you didn't get a chance at the top 3 quarterbacks. You don't believe, obviously, you didn't believe in Levi or anybody else enough to where you say, fuck it, I'm gonna take my chances with this young dude, or let me go out and trade for a cheaper veteran. You could have got Marcus Mariota, who ended up being signed to be the backup to the Eagles. Like, there's a few different routes they could have went, but they said, fuck it. He was solid for us last year, and the Seahawks under Pete Carroll's regime is another team that ain't trying to tank. But I still think they hit the under. But I'm just saying, like, I'm with you. I was kind of shocked that they doubled down on Geno Smith. But when you take into consideration all these other factors, specifically like what was available to them as alternatives, without giving up too much, it makes perfect sense, especially with the contract they ended up agreeing to with him, like the terms. 3 years, what was it? If I'm not mistaken, 3 years, 75, 40 million guaranteed.
You're correct.
Yeah, that's like the Daniel Jones contract, where only the first 2, you only really worried about the first 2 years. And then even if they have a shitty year this year, right, and say they bottom out, and they end up being like on the same level as the Cardinals and the Texans, fighting for that top 3 pick or whatever, and you got a chance to get a Drake May or a Caleb Williams, you get one of them and you let them compete with Geno for the starting quarterback, and then you only on the hook for that last year. He ain't guaranteed shit else after that anyway.
Yeah,
I guess so. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I guess seeing how it played out, like I feel like this was a year where, and we'll move on after this, but I feel like this was a year where, okay, yeah, all right, you don't have a top 3 pick, so do you want to spend that 5th pick on Will Levis, or even at 20? Like, I thought it was great that they got JSN. Like, I'm not saying that was a bad pick at all, but they were kind of in a rough position because they weren't quite high enough to get a top guy. At the 20 pick, the way the draft played out, maybe if Jason's off the board, maybe they're thinking about taking Levis or Hooker even to sit a year behind Geno. But I guess it was like, for me, like, all right, they doubling down on Geno, meaning they took him and they didn't try to draft or bring in another guy that could like compete with him, for the spot, this year. And we'll see about next year. But anyway, whatever. That's just that was just kind of like my like, oh, I'm surprised they really believed Geno was like who he was last year, which I guess why wouldn't they? But
No, yeah, but sorry, real quick. I'm not arguing that part.
Yeah.
I'm not even arguing it. I'm with you. But I'm just saying, I think it was more like it's less we believe in him, and it's more, it's the lesser of two evils, the better of the best of what our options are at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah, and it should be noted, like, if it doesn't go well for Geno Smith and the Seahawks, the deal is structured so where they can just get rid of him. It could be a 1-year deal for 27.3. Sure. It's one of those where they have an out clause after this season. A lot of this money is guaranteed to Geno up front, so it's not exactly like a situation where you're on the hook for a lot of money for a long period of time. If it doesn't work out, Geno gets a lot of money and he has the opportunity to earn it, and he doesn't earn it if he doesn't play well. So pretty win-win situation for Geno and the Seahawks, honestly.
For sure. All right, final team of the NFC West, the team that won the NFC West last year, the San Francisco 49ers, who are, speaking of quarterbacks, embroiled in a quarterback controversy themselves, which is probably why the line for Vegas is a little low. Excuse me, at 10.5. This team won 13 games last year. Again, expects it to be the best team in the division this year, even though we don't know, what the quarterback situation is going to be like because Brock Purdy's coming back from the injury. Trey Lance. I mean, every day it seems like you hear a different story about Trey Lance. You hear a different story about Sam Darnold. So a lot of questions there, but 10.5, a little low. I think that's probably why we all feel comfortable betting the over on that because this is still a really talented team. And, maybe they don't win 13 games this year, but great coach, great team, great roster. You kind of believe that whether it's Purdy or Darnold or Trey Lance, Shanahan's game plan is going to dictate how the games go rather much more than the quarterback. And then you still have all the weapons they have. We don't need to name them. We know who's there. Nick Bosa on defense, all that. The Niners, I think, over at 10.5 is an easy call, especially if the division's bad too. The NFC West isn't that great, so to me, it's easy call.
I feel like this is as open and shut of a conversation about a team as we've had on the Weekenders, which is great because this is the last team for the whole offseason. Yeah. But look, they went 13-4 last year with the worst quarterback luck you could ever ask for, and they still finished like a game away from the Super Bowl. And in that game, keep in mind, they literally ran out of quarterbacks and had to give it to a guy who could not throw. So imagine this team. If they just get a little bit lucky and get a little bit healthy, and you have Christian McCaffrey for the full season, get him all the way through training camp, get him all the way integrated, I'm just saying this San Francisco team is going to be really, really good. That 10.5, this is my favorite bet of the NFL season by far. I love the over here.
The 49ers will always be that team until it changes. That's like, for me, just a quarterback away from being one of the best teams we ever saw in history. That defense is fucking special. That defense is special. What they have at the skill position, quarterbacks wish they had shit like that. Most quarterbacks wish they had a George Kittle, a Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is always open, but barely gets the fucking ball because he don't who the fuck is he don't know who gonna throw to him week to week. He hasn't played with the most accurate quarterbacks or healthiest quarterbacks. Like Deebo Samuel's a Swiss Army knife. I don't know if he's a running back or a wide receiver. They use him as both. I think Ayuk is the best receiver on the team, but you got Ayuk, you got Deebo, you got Kittle, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got Elijah Mitchell. And then you have one of the most special defenses assembled. All they need is a quarterback, and it's going to be like the Warriors and the Cavs. There's going to be Chiefs 49ers. It's going to be like back in the days with the 49ers and the Cowboys in the NFC going up against the AFC. Hey, this team has so much fucking potential. They could get a solid quarterback for 17 games. Well, 20 games, right? But, yeah, anybody betting on the under is an idiot, no matter what. Like, Nick Bosa would have to, like, not play at all. Kyle Shanahan has medical issues or something and decide, like, for whatever personal matters. I don't want to wish nothing bad on him, but, like, Kyle Shanahan has to leave the sideline. Nick Bosa can't play. Everything has to go to hell in order for them to not win this division.
The only way they don't win this division is if California falls into the ocean. That's it.
Yeah, it's so funny. This organization with like a history of good quarterbacks going from, Montana to Young to, the Jeff Garcia.
Forget Jeff Garcia. Jeff Garcia was legit. I was a Jeff.
No, he was.
I was a 49ers fan as a kid because of Steve Young and Terrell Owens and Jerry Rice, but Giants are always at heart. But yeah, they've had some special quarterbacks over there. You're right.
Yeah, no, Jeff Garcia. When he was in the Buccaneers, bro, couldn't stand him, bro. He gave us fits, bro. I couldn't stand it. But yeah, bro, Garcia to Alex Smith and um, Kaepernick and all that. Yeah, I mean, always have had solid quarterbacks, and for the last couple of years, haven't been able to get a hold on that position. Um, I will say, I don't want to get too off track with this, but the 49ers do not get enough slack for passing on Justin Fields. Like no one ever mentions that when they talk about they talk about how they got bullied out of taking Mac Jones. People go say all this other stuff, and they never say the Niners should have just taken Justin Fields with a number 3 pick. No one ever talks about it, but that's weird to me. That's weird to me.
Honestly, I thought that's what they were gonna take when they traded all that shit to get to number 3. Like I was shocked when they announced Trey Lance and not Justin Fields. But I mean, either way, trading all that for a quarterback that like doesn't have like that high of a floor and ceiling. Like I don't know, it's crazy. Like Justin Fields is doing his thing as a runner, but we've yet to see it as a passer, right? Now we could blame that on a lot of different things. That's a conversation for another day. But either way, like what they did in that situation is just disgusting behavior. And the one thing I would say though is that while people don't talk about it enough, especially the media, 49ers fans do. 49ers fans to this day still bitch and moan about them doing all that for Trey Lance, and he's not even their fucking. And like he was just their third string a week ago. They
Yeah,
just moved up to second string this week.
yeah. Not Niners. Not I hear Niners fans, and I see Niners fans talk about the trade, and then the media is always like, "Man, they really wanted Mac Jones, but they got the pressure or whatever it was." And first of all, I remember that draft cycle. Like, I never understood why anyone, like you said, would risk what the Niners did on a guy who had played like one game in the FCS, and then like had one good year before that. Like, even if he played at a Power 5 school, like he was lacking a lot of experience. It was just a lot of like red flags with Trey Lance. And that a lot of things
Didn't
that
he
showed that
like?
he was going to be like a project and not a guy that could start right away. So I just feel like at that position, okay, Trevor Lawrence goes, Zach Wilson goes. Like, why not? Why was Justin Fields never a part of the conversation for the Niners? Why was it Mac Jones versus Trey Lance? That does not make any sense to me. But again, that's that could be a whole other podcast. But
I feel like
that's crazy.
Teams just get way too cute with it. I mean, again,
Yeah.
Lance only played one full college football season, and he's only started 4 games for the Niners. So
yeah,
it's what I have no idea what to think about the guy. He might be good. I don't know. We haven't seen we have not seen the guy play football.
Yeah.
He started what? Let's see. He started 4 games in the NFL so far, and I'm not trying to get into it because we've been here for 2 hours. And then he started 17 in college. He started in 5 years of football. He has started 21 games.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's not a lot.
Yeah. All right,
That's crazy, and that's including the NFL.
Yeah,
that's nasty word.
NFC West MVP. Me and Bobby got CMC. Larry, you got Nick Bosa. I'm gonna let you explain why while I get up and get my DoorDash. Be right back. Go ahead, Larry.
Nick Bosa is not only the best player in the division, he's the best defensive player in the NFL. Arguably, I gotta say arguably, because personally, I have T.J. Watt as the best defensive player in the NFL. But he got hurt last year. Nick Bosa is reigning defensive player of the year. Nick Bosa is one of the best players in the NFL. He's one of the most fearsome players in the NFL. He is unstoppable. And then the 49ers just added to their defense this year. They just added what's the dude's name from the 49ers? Hargrave. They just got not the 49ers, the Eagles. Javon Hargrave. They got Eric Armstead still. Jake Jackson. Fred Warner's a fucking monster. Like Charlie Ward. Like the way that Tavarius Ward. I said Charlie. I'm thinking of the Knicks for a second. Tavarius Ward. But like the way this team is built, like again, I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, like this fucking defense is special. And it's in large part because of Nick Bosa, but it's not just because of Nick Bosa. They have so many fucking weapons on defense that Dion mentioned this yesterday. And I've thought about it a lot, and he's right. As good as Nick Bosa is, that defense is so fucking good that you're not going to be able to double team him either. Like, and even when you do double team him, he still led the league in sacks last year while getting double teamed on damn near every play. Triple team. Like, there's no stopping this dude. The only thing that can stop him is him because he don't want to get on the field without a new contract or an injury. But outside of that, like, Nick Bosa is really one of the best players in the fucking NFL. So it's easy for me to say, like, I understand why y'all would say CMC because how dynamic he is and how much he's going to mean to that offense and the success of that offense as long as he's healthy. But Nick Bosa is too special and too impactful for. I just don't see how anybody on the team is more impactful than fucking Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I think Bosa, like in terms of value to the team. I mean, to the value to the team again. I think Nick Bosa like means so much to what they do on defense. But I think in this situation, again, when we talk about how bad their quarterback situation is, like, but CMC is going to be the thing that like holds them together. And not just CMC, like they have other weapons. I'm forgetting Samuel, everybody like that.
But Samuel, yeah, like I mentioned them when you was out getting your DoorDash. But look, you got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got Kittle, you got Elijah Mitchell, you got CMC. Look, but thing about this though, you mentioned the quarterback situation, right? Bobby just brought up a few minutes ago how horrible their luck was at quarterback. They started 3 different quarterbacks last year and still won 13 games, 14 games last year. Why was that? Yeah. Because of their defense. Who's the anchor of their defense? The reigning defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa. When was the last time the 49ers had a really good quarterback? Alex Kaepernick. Smith, the king of game managers. Cap's first couple of years as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. And even then, what was the engine of that team? The defense. Who set the tone for that team? The defense. Like, the defense is going to keep the offense in a position to win the fucking game.
I think that's very fair. I think that's a very good point. Like, Bosa would be their MVP.
For the last few years, the anchor of since he's gotten to the NFL, anchor of their defense, Nick Bosa. And again, you could argue with me if you want, and I could bring up 1,000 different points of why you're wrong, but Nick Bosa is one of the fucking best players in the NFL. Not just defensive players, not just pass rushers. Like, in the entire league, he's one of the fucking best players in the fucking league, bro.
I think you make really good points, honestly. I feel you.
Yeah. To the coach of the year, Bobby and I had Shanahan, coach of the Niners. Larry put McDermott. I don't know what team he coaches.
I meant to put McVay. My bad. I get the McShawns mixed up.
Right,
the McShawns.
You're good.
I get the McShawns mixed up. I meant Sean McVay.
McVay, we got you, bro.
And the reason why I picked McVay over Shanahan is because of expectation. I think that the Rams are going to exceed expectations. They have very low expectations. What was the over under 6.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over under 6.5. That tells you right now what everybody thinks of them. So now I see them winning at least 9-10 games at minimum.
Right.
So if they do what I think they're gonna do, they're gonna far exceed expectations, and the media loves, especially for Coach of the Year. It's really all about the team's expectations and the final result. Like, look at the Giants last year. Daboll won. What the Giants won 9 games last year, and Daboll won Coach of the Year in the NFL, not just the division like we're talking about right now, because the Giants far exceeded expectations. The same can happen for the Rams. Like when I said Sean McVay, I think Sean McVay might win Coach of the Year unless the Jets or the Bills have like a crazy ass season. I see Sean McVay. All Sean McVay got to do is win 9-10 games to win Coach of the Year, because everybody expects nothing from them right now.
I think that's fair.
Everybody's doubting them. So as long as they can do that, which I expect them to be able to, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I have him over Shanahan. I don't think he's a better coach than Shanahan. He's proven that in the head-to-head matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you think about Coach of the Year, it'll come down to, like you said, if they shock people, then people are going to be like, okay, yeah, McVay. Same, it's like Pete Carroll last year. Like, Pete Carroll showed a lot of people that, like, you know, say what you want about me or whatever whenever the Russ situation was happening. Pete Carroll's a great head coach, and he shows that with what he's shown that with what he's done with Geno Smith. So in the same situation, like in a similar situation, I can see McVay kind of being that this year. All right. Winners of the NFC West. Sweep for the 49ers, we all agree. Last place for the NFC West. Bobby has the Rams. Me and Lerk have the Cardinals. Bobby, care to explain why you have the Rams in the cellar and not the Arizona Cardinals?
Oh, mainly just straight up bias because I want Kyler Murray to do good. That's all. And I also like slandering the Rams for some reason because I think there's some bums.
Yo, I respect the honesty and I respect your reasoning behind it.
Oh yeah, and look, it's a good thing they didn't have me in the NFC South podcast because I would have had Baker Mayfield MVP, you know, Baker Mayfield Coach of the Year, Baker Mayfield like winning, like you know, Tampa winning the Super Bowl. It would have gotten wild. So my bias knows no bounds, folks.
Wait, I missed the NFC South preview. Please fill me in on your updated opinion on Baker Mayfield, Max, because I know you remember we had that debate a while back on Chaos and Conversation when we were talking about Baker Mayfield and the Panthers over under, and you was really like in support of him before last season started.
Yeah, I think the Panthers hit the over, by the way, last year.
Yeah.
But
without Baker.
Yeah, but no.
You're right.
No. Here's my thing about Baker. You know what? I think I'm still not sure, only because I think Matt Rule like is absolute garbage as an NFL head coach. Like I'm rethinking a lot of stuff that I thought now that I have like seen now that we're out of Matt Rule, because like I don't know what's gonna happen when the game starts, but I'm hearing reports about Sam Darnold doing good in camp. I'm hearing that Baker Mayfield's playing well, like all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, like maybe we just didn't get a fair evaluation of Baker that year because Matt Rule was like such a terrible coach. So I don't know. I feel like he probably will never be. I think that year I think Dion says this a lot, and I agree with him. I do agree with him. Baker had a year in Cleveland that was great by his standards, but if you really look at it, like it was just average numbers. And so I think that like that says a lot about who he is. And I thought at the time that um, we had the infrastructure to allow him to be like Cleveland Baker for that 1 year or like a little bit less. And I thought he was better than Sam Darnold because I think Sam Darnold's trash. But I can't necessarily say the reasons why he didn't achieve that was because he's not good. Because I think Matt Rule just really like when you just all the stuff that I've heard like from like that regime is just like, all right, like I can't even like be mad at. I feel I'm it's low key people in the Panthers fan base that were like apologize to Teddy Bridgewater. Like that's how damn bad we were because people were like it wasn't Teddy's fault. Matt Rule, nah, I'm not that down bad. I still think Teddy stinks, but like
dudes were in 50.
People was like. When Matt Rule got fired and all the reports and stuff came out about stuff that was going on, a lot of people was like, "Oh yeah, this dude like was really bad." So I still don't know. I still don't.
You know, I'm not. You know, I'm not high on Baker. I was one of the people that was like against this shit. Didn't like now. So here's my thing, right? Yes, those numbers were technically average, but the reason why everybody was excited wasn't specifically about the numbers he put up and what he did that season, right? It was about because he did that, now our expectations. Like you were drafted number 1 overall. Mm-hmm. You just justified why we drafted. You just showed us your potential. And now, just like any other player with expectations, and specifically quarterback, they expected it to continue to improve and for him to continue to build off that. I'm not high on Baker, but at the same time, if I'm going to give Daniel Jones this out, I got to give Baker this out. He played under a ton of head coaches, offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, different receivers. Like, Cleveland was a shit show up until his last year there, and it was still kind of a shit show when he left. Like, come on, like, he's not there because you guys guaranteed $200 and something million to a guy who was accused by sexual assault by over 20 women. Like, you're still a shit show of a franchise. So, but like and then like the constant like his name being in the media and him proving not to be mentally tough enough to deal with all that. Like he went through a lot of shit. It's not all on talent, but bro, I'm taller than Baker Mayfield, bro.
Yeah,
you're not.
That's
like,
real.
You know how many successful quarterbacks are his height or shorter? Like, there's not that many successful NFL quarterbacks that's that short. Yeah. What is he? 6 flat, 5'11"?
Yeah.
Like, so,
I think. Here's the thing. I think Baker, what he was touted as coming out of Oklahoma was, the size, all that stuff. But I think people believe that his accuracy and his ability to, especially accuracy on the run, and then his ability to like come in as a guy that like could be confidently lead, group of men, great locker room guy, all that stuff. Like that was what was sold to us in terms of Baker being the number 1 pick. And I think outside of that one good year he had, like the accuracy hasn't been there. Wasn't always the best leadership wise. Like he had some rough moments in Cleveland. And then the injury situation like was like the thing that I think really took him from being like a guy that could play at a good level, like middle of the pack level, to like now he's like probably in the 20s in quarterbacks because he tried to come back too early from the injury and he's never been the same.
Yeah.
So,
playing with like a broken or separated ass shoulder. It was really stupid, and I think that painted a lot of it. And then he goes to Carolina, which is a disaster. He kind of needs a good situation to succeed. I'm sorry that we've gone on a tangent about Baker Mayfield.
He's technically in a good situation.
Yeah. That's why I think he'll bounce back in Tampa. He's in a great position. Lots of those guys remaining from that Super Bowl run. I think Rachaad White is awesome. He does really well when you have a running back he can throw to. I think a bounce back season for Baker could be in the works. So that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, I'd feel better if Bruce Arians was still the coach. I'm not a Todd Bowles fan. That's my thing about it. All right, last thing, and we'll get out of here. Playoff teams coming out of the NFC West. I got one. It's the Niners. Bobby's got one.
Niners.
I'm assuming it's the Niners. Lerk, you got two. Who's coming out of the West and going to the playoffs for you?
49ers.
And who else?
I got two. I got 49ers and Rams.
Okay.
And the Rams. As I was saying, I didn't want to reveal my cards earlier because I knew we was going to talk about it later on. But, yeah, I think the Rams are going to be the two teams that come out. So you brought up earlier that you had two teams coming out of the AFC North. I mean, is it the
NFC North?
I mean, the NFC North. I think I'm the opposite of you, where I got two in the South. I'm two in the West and one in the North. But I also have one in the South as well.
Yeah. So my playoff teams are right now are unofficially Eagles, Giants, Commanders, Vikings, Lions, Panthers, Niners. 7. Those are my 7 out of the NFC.
Okay, so mine is no order: Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Saints, Vikings, 49ers, Rams.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I haven't eaten dinner yet, and it's 9 p.m. in Oklahoma, and I can't think straight.
It's okay. We'll get Bobby.
Lerk got the punt earlier. I'm punting now.
We will get Bobby to the dinner table. This is the longest episode of the Weekenders we've ever recorded. We don't. Hey, it's okay.
This is the longest podcast episode I've been a part of as well.
That's crazy. Okay, all right. Well, we're out of here. This was fun though. I had so much fun recording this. By the way, my DoorDash never came. They gypped me, so I got to order. They gave me my credits, and so I had to order something else. So anyway, wish me luck on that. Bobby, go get your dinner. Lerk, we appreciate it having you. Hey, if you like this podcast, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. We're going to talk about the games. Finally, we will talk about football games on the next show of the Weekenders. Oh, Lerk, tell them where they can find you. Break the Bank. Go type it into your YouTube search. When you're done with this, type in Break the Bank podcast. Go watch that. Lerk, go ahead. Close us out.
Yes, sir. You can find the Break the Bank podcast on YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can follow me on any social media right there at LurkWins418. Lurk with an E if you're not reading the screen. Do not put a U. We're not dorks.
All right, y'all. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.